So here we are on approach to Ambrose Lake State Forest Campground, located in West Branch, Michigan. The campground is a state forest campground that is registered on a first come, first serve basis. Here is the registration stand, and it is $20 a night for a campsite. The little envelopes in here are pre-filled out, which is convenient. A lot of times they are not. And you just finish filling it out with your information, drop it in the deposit box, and you are good to go. There is part of a tag that will have to be put at your campsite on the pole beside your camp number. The registration site has your typical information for emergency contacts, camping fees for other camp areas, and the normal legal stuff that they have to have for all of the other campsites with camp rules and DNR rules. A whole bunch of stuff that we usually don't read. There is a nice plaque there. They recently did some upgrades to this campground, and they, of course, have to say where the campground upgrades were funded by. And then if you go one way, you have sites 1 through 7. If you head straight, you have 8 through 25, and then you have a boat launch. So the first site that we are at here is site number 1. It's a fairly large site, as are most of them. And then we head over to campsite number 10. Another fairly decent sized campsite here. Most of them are plenty big enough for a trailer or a pop-up camper or several tents. Site number 23 is up next. Plenty shaded, lots of trees. And we're gonna actually pop back over to this site at the very end of the video. And then site number 6 is one of a couple sites that are considered handicap sites. They're a little bit larger, have more parking, more accessibility, and then across the road is additional parking, whether it's for a visitor or for a larger handicap vehicle. From there, we have some of the lakeside sites. These have a little less privacy, less trees dividing them, but they all have access to the lake for shore casting and viewing of the lake. You can see most of these sites are reserved. We then come back to campsite 23, and we're going to actually walk into this site. You can see kind of how large they are, plenty of space inside. The picnic tables are all updated. They're wood, but they're nicely painted. They're clean. And then we swing over to the fire pits, and those were also recently updated, but this one has some of the cement chipped out of it already. But they're nice fire pits. You're not going to burn yourself on the outside of the fire ring. Cement inside that ring to help hold it down. You can see as we swing around here, it's nice and spacious inside this one, and the next site over is barriered by trees. So you'll be able to see your neighbors and hear them, but they're going to be dampened by the trees. We have a small beach down here by the lakeside campsites. The beach is small. It's got some sand on it, but the farther out you go, it turns fairly mucky. There is one hand pump for water, and that's located kind of in the center of the campground. I'm going to actually fill up my water bottle here, and we're going to do a taste test and a smell test on the water. I'm just barely moving the handle on this, and the water's coming out good, so no issues with water coming out. Let's give it a taste here. Water looks nice and clean. Let's have a taste. It's actually really good, clean tasting, not fishy, not irony, and pretty cold water. Now we're gonna check out the 2 outhouses. They are clean around the outside, and in fact I could say that for the whole campground. There was no trash laying around. There's the one dumpster there for the camper garbage, but the grounds around all of the campsites were very nice and clean. They are unisex bathrooms, and when you come inside they're fairly clean. fairly well maintained. There's a little bit of toilet paper there on the ground. The lid is up. Just a reminder, lids are supposed to stay down, but the smell is a little worse than average. We do have a boat launch at the campground, and we're going to get a little bit closer to that boat launch out here and actually go out on the dock. It is a cement boat launch pad, so that's nice. There's my kayak that I came in on, and this is the view from the actual dock. So it is not a huge lake. It's actually a little weedy, about 8 foot deep max in the middle, and there is quite a layer of muck in the bottom. It's going to be hard to find solid ground, sand, or rock down there. It's a lot of muck. And here is a view from the kayak out on the lake. You can see the lily pads. They actually make some decent bass area, but it's rare to catch bass of legal length in this lake. Lily pads naturally float to the surface with their roots sometimes here because it's so much muck that they don't stay anchored well. And we do have some loons that play around and mate in the lake. This one happens to just have one little hatchling with it right now. And there's the mate. So overall, this is a pretty decent campground. The weekends can be fairly busy with ATV and ORV people, but otherwise on the weekdays, it's just nice and quiet, and you got a nice view of the lake.